While the ending of season 4 of The Boys left everyone excited for what's to come, the previous 7 episodes were pretty hit or miss. Even though I was hyped on this season back during the summer, after sitting on it for half a year, season 4 of The Boys never quite hit the highs of season 3 and even managed to hit new lows.
Oh, yo, ow!
What?
Oh, that's my web hole.
So today, I want to reflect on what didn't work in season 4 of The Boys, more specifically, how weak side plots tanked the season. Real quick, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. When I say weak side plots tanked season 4, I mean most of the side plots weren't compelling enough for the amount of screen time they had. This left us with side plots ranging from half-baked, like Annie with her identity crisis, to just poorly written, with Frenchie and his escapades with Colin. Don't get me wrong, there are still some W subplots, like Homelander's homecoming, the Butcher Joe Kessler mystery, A-Train's redemption, and Huey's dad's stroke. But the issue stems from the main plot of this season only really having enough juice in it for about 4 good episodes. This left our supporting protagonists to pick up the slack with mediocre side stories. The 2 worst offenders this season have to be Annie and Frenchie, although for different reasons.
My new motto for mental health. Real eyes, realize, realize. Sit with that one for a minute.
Annie is probably the most underutilized lead, despite the writers having a pretty good idea of the arc they wanted for her since season 1, with this question of identity. Are you Annie because you're Starlight, or are you Starlight because you're Annie? The only problem is, the writers rarely want to devote any screen time to explore this question. Since they spent the past 3 seasons dancing around this idea, by the time season 4 starts, it's last call to resolve any plot lines that wouldn't work in season 5, and the female lead hasn't had any significant character development since she committed manslaughter back in season 2. So they try to play catch up, and we get a not so subtle scene where Annie is being berated by her literal doppelganger. Don't confuse my words here, I like this arc for Annie, I just wish it wasn't being seriously explored for the first time in the midst of the season 4 finale. If Annie needed more time to develop her character, Frenchie needed less. Right off the bat, the whole Colin saga was a waste of time. I know some people were mad because they made Frenchie bi, but this subplot is so whack, if I was a homophobe, I don't think the gay shit would be my biggest gripe. Since Frenchie had nothing to do this season until Butcher needed him to re-engineer the soup virus, the writers decided to have him mope around and be gay until then. The crazy thing is, if you left everything about this plotline the same, but actually made the resolution have consequences, it would be 10 times better. But as it stands now, Frenchie reveals the truth to Colin, he disappears into thin air, Frenchie turns himself into the police, and everything is back to normal a few episodes later as soon as a main character needed him for something. What's crazy is it feels like the writers knew they just wrote the most inconsequential storyline ever, because when Butcher needs Frenchie, it takes 0 effort to get him out. No jailbreak, no quid pro quo behind the scenes, it's just, oi oi, I'm with the bloody CIA and I need this cunt out of jail. It's almost like the writers are saying, playtime's over, Frenchie, the real plot needs you. The most funny bad thing to come out of this storyline has to be the scene at Homelander's trial where Frenchie and Colin start making out mid-riot, all while libtards are getting stomped out in the background. Legit has to be the goofiest scene in the whole series. No other character, not even that horny motherfucker Tech Knight, would stop mid-battle for some sugar. To me, it seems like the writers were more focused on writing in a gay romance rather than a romance with gay dudes. Since the Frenchie subplot was so inconsequential and the Colin romance was never going anywhere, this gives the impression Colin was only introduced to check a box left empty since the show lost the world's bravest lesbian, Queen Maeve. Since nothing in this plotline actually mattered, this will be remembered as the time Frenchie killed a guy's family and then made him come.
Did you know we spend all of our time watching the time? Most of the time. But what happens when we run out of time?
Even though these subplots fail in different ways, they still equally contribute to this season's inconsistent pacing and lack of narrative cohesion. In many ways, it was an uphill battle for these plot lines. Since the boys had to lose this season, most of our protagonist side stories weren't going to have satisfying endings. The issue arises when these subplots are written to be disjointed and inconsequential to the main narrative. It feels like that arc's only purpose is to explain why that character is useless this season, rather than facilitate character growth that advances the storyline. Now, there's a lot more I could yap about beyond these weak arcs, like how Sage's plan isn't as airtight as the writers wanted you to think it was, but I think I'll save that for another video. Let me know what you did or didn't like about Season 4 of The Boys in the comments down below. See you on the next Randograph.
You're